What if I told you that every interaction you have with another human being follows predictable psychological patterns? What if I told you that the most successful people in the world, leaders, influencers, those who seem to connect effortlessly with anyone, not only possess a natural gift, but also master the hidden psychology of human behavior? This audiobook will teach you to see what others overlook. You will learn to read the subtle psychological signals that reveal what people truly think and feel. You will understand the neurological mechanisms that drive human connection and influence. Most importantly, you will develop social intelligence to build deeper relationships, command respect, and create genuine influence in every area of your life. By the time you finish this audiobook, you will no longer think about human interaction in the same way. You will see the psychological patterns underlying every conversation, every conflict, every moment of connection. This is not just about being more sociable. It is about mastering the fundamental psychology of how humans think, feel, and behave in social situations. If you truly want to change, subscribe to this channel, Audiobook USA. Here you'll find complete audiobooks, impactful and practical content you can apply in real life, and a completely free PDF with practical steps. It's not just about listening. Now it's about learning, applying, and moving forward, all in one place. Chapter 1. The hidden psychology behind every human interaction. Every conversation you have, every relationship you build, every moment of social connection operates according to deep psychological principles that most people never consciously recognize. These are not abstract theories. They are patterns rooted in the human brain, evolved over millions of years to help us survive and thrive in social groups. The first hidden principle is the psychology of social threat detection. In the first few seconds of meeting someone, your brain unconsciously performs a complex threat assessment. Is this person safe? Are they part of my tribe? Do they have higher or lower social status than me? Your amygdala, the brain's alarm system, constantly scans for signals of social danger, rejection, humiliation, and exclusion. That is why first impressions are so powerful and difficult to change. Your brain makes judgments about someone even before your conscious mind realizes what is happening. Understanding this gives you immense power. When you know that everyone you meet is unconsciously asking, "Am I safe with this person?" you can deliberately convey safety and acceptance. You can use your body language, tone of voice, and opening words to immediately reassure someone's threat detection system. This is the foundation of all social influence, making others feel psychologically secure in your presence. The second hidden principle is the reciprocity bias. Humans are psychologically wired to return favors, even small ones. This goes far beyond simple politeness. It is a survival mechanism that helped our ancestors build the cooperative relationships necessary for group survival. When someone does something for us, even something as minor as holding a door or giving a compliment, our brain creates a psychological debt we feel compelled to repay. Socially intelligent people understand this principle and use it ethically to build relationships and influence. They look for opportunities to provide value first, sharing useful information, offering genuine compliments, or simply giving their full attention. This creates positive cycles of reciprocity that strengthen relationships over time. The third principle is the psychology of social proof. Humans are herd animals. We look to others to determine what is normal, acceptable, and desirable. That is why testimonials are so powerful in marketing, because we are more likely to help someone if we see others doing the same, and social movements can spread quickly. Your brain constantly asks, "What are others like me doing in this situation?" and uses that information to guide your behavior. When you understand the psychology of social proof, you can shape social context to influence behavior. You can highlight examples of the behavior you want to see, position yourself as someone others want to emulate, and create environments where positive behaviors become the obvious social norm. The fourth hidden principle is the psychology of status and hierarchy. Every human interaction involves subtle negotiations over relative social position. This is not about being arrogant. It is about understanding that humans naturally organize into social hierarchies for group coordination. Your brain constantly processes signals about where you and others fit within the social structure. High-status behaviors include confident posture, deliberate speech patterns, occupying appropriate space, and showing genuine interest in others without seeking approval. Low-status behaviors include fidgeting, constantly seeking validation, apologetic body language, and nervous speech patterns. By understanding these signals, you can consciously project the level of confidence and authority that serves you best. The final principle is emotional contagion. Human emotions are literally contagious. When you are near someone anxious, your stress hormones rise. When you're around someone genuinely happy and energetic, you feel more positive. This happens through mirror neurons in the brain, which automatically mimic the emotional states of others. Emotionally intelligent people first learn to manage their own emotional state and then use emotional contagion to positively influence others. They bring calm and energy to stressful situations, enthusiasm to daily tasks, and confidence to uncertain environments. They understand that their emotional state affects not only themselves, but everyone around them. These 5 principles operate in every human interaction, whether you are aware of them or not. The difference between socially successful people and everyone else is that successful people understand these patterns and work with them consciously rather than being unconsciously controlled by them. Chapter 2: Decoding the Social Brain. How are we wired to connect? Your brain is fundamentally a social organ. Every major system in your brain evolved not only to help you survive as an individual, but also to thrive as part of social group. Understanding how your social brain works is key to mastering human psychology and developing authentic social intelligence. The most important part of your social brain is the prefrontal cortex, located just behind your forehead. This is the executive director of your brain. It handles complex social reasoning, emotional regulation, and long-term planning. When you interpret someone's facial expression, understand social context, or decide how to respond in a delicate conversation, your prefrontal cortex does the heavy lifting. But here is what most people do not know. Your prefrontal cortex is also the most energy-consuming part of your brain. When you're tired, stressed, or overwhelmed, it is the first system to shut down. That is why people make poor social decisions when exhausted. Conflicts escalate when everyone is stressed, and emotional intelligence seems to vanish in difficult moments. The practical implication is huge. To maintain optimal social intelligence, you must manage your mental energy. This includes getting enough sleep, managing stress, taking breaks during intense social interactions, and being strategic in engaging in important conversations. Your social brain cannot function at full capacity when your energy is depleted. The second crucial component is your mirror neuron system. These specialized neurons activate both when you perform an action and when you observe someone else performing the same action. They're the neurological foundation of empathy, allowing you to literally feel what others feel by simulating their experiences in your own brain. Mirror neurons are why you automatically smile when someone smiles at you, feel tense around anxious people, and feel empathy when you see someone suffer. They are also why behavioral mirroring, subtly imitating posture, speech patterns, or energy levels, creates such a powerful connection. When you mirror someone appropriately, their brain perceives synchrony and social connection. However, mirror neurons can also work against you. If you're constantly surrounded by negative, stressed, or toxic people, your mirror neurons will make you absorb their emotional states. That is why your social environment has such a powerful impact on your psychology and behavior. You literally become more like the people you spend time with, whether you realize it or not. The third key system is your limbic brain, which processes emotions and social rewards. When you experience social connection, acceptance, or positive feedback, your brain releases dopamine, oxytocin, and other neurochemicals that create feelings of pleasure and bonding. That is why social media can be so addictive. It provides intermittent social rewards that activate the same neurochemical pathways. Understanding your limbic system helps you recognize your own social motivations and those of others. We all seek some form of social reward, recognition, acceptance, status, connection, or validation. When you identify the type of social reward someone seeks, you can offer it authentically and build stronger relationships. Your limbic system also manages social pain. The same brain regions that process physical pain are activated when you experience social rejection, exclusion, or humiliation. That is why social rejection hurts so much. Your brain literally processes it as a threat to your survival. It is also why public speaking is terrifying for most people. Your brain interprets the possibility of social rejection as a life or death matter. The fourth component is your brain's threat detection system, located in the amygdala. This system constantly scans your social environment for potential dangers, people who might reject you, situations where you could be humiliated, or interactions that could harm your social standing. Your threat detection system operates much faster than conscious thought. It can identify potential social threats in milliseconds and trigger fight or flight responses even before you realize what is happening. That is why you can feel inexplicably uncomfortable around certain people or in certain social situations. The key to mastering social relationships is learning to work with your threat detection system rather than against it. This means gradually exposing yourself to socially challenging situations, building confidence through small achievements, and developing techniques to calm your nervous system during difficult interactions. Finally, your social brain includes sophisticated systems for understanding social hierarchy, group dynamics, and cultural norms. These systems allow you to navigate complex social structures, understand implicit rules, and adapt your behavior to different social contexts. What is remarkable about your social brain is its plasticity. The neural pathways governing your social behavior can be strengthened through practice and awareness. Every time you consciously practice a social skill, you are rewiring your brain to make that behavior more automatic and natural. This means social intelligence is not fixed, it is trainable. You could develop greater empathy, stronger communication skills, a more charismatic presence, and higher emotional intelligence through deliberate practice and awareness of how your social brain works. Chapter 3. The 4 Pillars of Social Intelligence Mastery. Social intelligence is not a single skill, but a sophisticated integration of 4 distinct yet interconnected capacities. These 4 pillars work together to create the magnetic presence and genuine influence that characterize the most socially successful people. Master these 4 pillars, and you will have the foundation for extraordinary relationships and positive social impact. The first pillar is social awareness, the ability to accurately interpret and understand the emotions, motivations, and psychological states of others. This goes far beyond simply noticing when someone seems upset. Social awareness involves developing sensitivity to detect subtle emotional shifts, understanding the deeper needs and fears driving behavior, and recognizing the complex social dynamics at play in any group situation. Most people are so focused on themselves, on what they will say next, how they are perceived, and whether they are making a good impression, that they overlook the valuable psychological information available in every interaction. Socially aware people have learned to direct their attention outward, becoming keen observers of human nature. This involves mastering the art of reading microexpressions, fleeting facial expressions that reveal true emotions before people can consciously control them. It means listening not only to what people say, but also how they say it, what they do not say, and what their body language reveals about their internal state. Social awareness also requires understanding context. The same behavior can mean completely different things depending on the situation, the person's background, their current stress level, and their relationship with you. A socially aware person considers all these factors when interpreting behavior rather than making hasty judgments based on superficial appearances. The second pillar is self-management, the ability to regulate your own emotions, behavior, and energy in social situations. This is perhaps the most crucial pillar because you cannot influence others effectively if you cannot first influence yourself. Self-management means maintaining emotional balance under pressure, projecting the energy and presence you want others to experience, and making conscious choices about how to respond rather than reacting automatically. Self-management begins with emotional self-awareness, recognizing your own emotional states as they arise and understanding how those emotions affect your behavior and impact on others. It means recognizing when you feel defensive, anxious, frustrated, or overwhelmed and having strategies to manage those states productively. It also involves energy management. Your emotional and mental energy profoundly affects those around you through emotional contagion. When you transmit calm, confidence, and positive energy in interactions, others naturally feel more comfortable and open. When you transmit anxious, negative, or chaotic energy, others mirror those states, making interactions more difficult. Advanced self-management includes the ability to consciously shift your emotional state to suit the needs of the situation. Sometimes leadership requires projecting strength and determination. Sometimes it requires warmth and empathy. Sometimes it requires joy and humor. Socially intelligent people develop the flexibility to access different aspects of their personality as needed. The third pillar is social influence, the ability to guide interactions and relationships in positive directions. This is not about manipulation or coercion, but about creating genuine value for others while achieving your legitimate objectives. Social influence requires understanding what motivates people and finding ways to align your interests with theirs. Effective social influence begins with building trust and credibility. People only allow themselves to be influenced by those they respect and feel safe with. This involves being authentic, keeping commitments, showing genuine interest in others' well-being, and demonstrating competence in areas they care about. It also requires mastering the psychology of persuasion. This includes understanding how people make decisions, what types of arguments resonate with different personalities, how to frame information compellingly, and how to create both emotional and logical reasons for people to accept your ideas. Advanced social influence involves what researchers call inspirational motivation, the ability to connect with people's highest values and aspirations, helping them see how your proposal serves their deepest interests and contributes to something meaningful. This is the difference between achieving compliance and generating genuine enthusiasm and commitment. The fourth pillar is relational architecture, the ability to build, maintain, and deepen meaningful connections over time. This goes beyond networking or casual conversation. Relational architecture involves understanding the deeper dynamics that create lasting bonds between people and knowing how to nurture them systematically. This includes mastering the art of vulnerability and trust building. Strong relationships are based on mutual vulnerability, the willingness to share authentic thoughts, feelings, and experiences with others. However, vulnerability must be calibrated correctly. Too much, too soon, can make others uncomfortable. Too little can make relationships superficial. Relational architecture also involves understanding and managing relationship dynamics over time. All relationships go through predictable phases: initial connection, deepening intimacy, challenges and conflicts, and renewed closeness or gradual distancing. Expert relational architects know how to navigate these phases consciously, addressing issues before they become problems and continuously adding value to others' lives. This includes the ability to maintain extensive networks without them feeling transactional or superficial. It requires systems to stay in touch, remember important details about people's lives, and find genuine ways to contribute to their success and happiness. These four pillars work synergistically. Social awareness provides the information you need to manage yourself effectively. Self-management lays the foundation for effective influence. Social influence builds stronger relationships, and strong relationships provide more opportunities to develop the four skills. People with the highest social intelligence have developed the four pillars to an advanced level. They interpret social situations accurately, manage their own presence skillfully, influence others ethically and effectively, and forge extraordinary networks of meaningful relationships. This combination creates what appears to be natural charisma, but it is actually the result of consciously developed skills. Chapter 4. Understanding personality types and behavior patterns. Every person you encounter operates according to distinctive psychological patterns that shape their worldview, decision-making, and interaction with others. Understanding these personality patterns gives you a tremendous advantage in social situations because it allows you to adapt your communication style to match how others naturally think and process information. The fundamentals of personality psychology reveal that people differ along four key dimensions. The first is introversion versus extroversion, which describes how they direct their energy and attention. Introverts focus their energy inward, preferring depth over breadth in relationships and needing quiet moments to recharge. Extroverts focus their energy outward, gaining stimulation from social interaction and external activity. This difference affects all aspects of communication. Introverts often prefer to think before speaking. They appreciate written communication over phone calls and value one-on-one conversations over group interactions. They usually have an incredibly rich inner life, but may appear reserved in social settings. Extroverts think aloud, prefer verbal communication, and thrive in group environments. They may seem more socially confident, but sometimes dominate conversations unintentionally. When interacting with introverts, allow them time to process information before expecting responses. Ask thoughtful questions and create space for reflection. Do not mistake their reserved nature for disinterest or lack of intelligence. Some of the brightest people are introverts who simply prefer to observe and reflect before contributing. Extroverts enjoy interactive conversations, brainstorming sessions, and opportunities to explore ideas verbally. However, ensure you also create opportunities for listening, as their natural tendency to externalize thoughts can sometimes overshadow others' contributions. The second dimension is sensing versus intuition, describing how people assimilate and process information. Sensors focus on concrete facts, details, and practical applications. They rely on what they can see, hear, and experience directly. They prefer step-by-step instructions, specific examples, and proven methods. Intuitives focus on patterns, possibilities, and conceptual connections. They're drawn to abstract ideas, future potential, and innovative approaches. They prefer to understand the big picture before diving into details and often generate multiple creative solutions to problems. When communicating with sensors, be specific and practical. Provide concrete examples, detailed instructions, and empirical support for your ideas. Respect their need for proven methods and gradual changes. Do not overwhelm them with abstract theories or entirely new approaches. With intuitives, start with the big picture and explain how the details fit into the broader vision. Focus on possibilities and potential, not just current realities. Encourage creativity and remain open to unconventional solutions. However, also address practical implementation considerations. The third dimension is thinking versus feeling, describing how people make decisions. Thinkers prioritize logic, consistency, and objective analysis. They want to understand the rational basis for decisions and prefer impersonal criteria. They value competence, efficiency, and fairness. Feelers prioritize values, relationships, and human impact. They want to understand how decisions affect people and prefer to consider individual circumstances. They value harmony, authenticity, and compassion. When working with thinkers, present logical arguments supported by data and evidence. Focus on efficiency, competence, and objective benefits. Anticipate potential issues and have rational solutions ready. Do not take their direct communication style personally. They focus on the logic of ideas, not personal relationships. When working with feelers, emphasize the human impact of decisions and demonstrate how your proposals align with shared values. Take time to build rapport and show genuine concern for others' well-being. Be diplomatic in communication and acknowledge the emotional aspects of situations. The fourth dimension is judging versus perceiving, describing how people organize, close, and approach plans. Judgers like to make decisions quickly and remain consistent. They value organization, predictability, and goal achievement. Perceivers prefer flexibility, openness, and adaptable approaches. They like to keep options open and gather more information before deciding. They value spontaneity, exploration, and discovery. With judgers, be organized and prepared. Provide clear deadlines, specific objectives, and structured approaches. Respect their need for closure and avoid constantly changing plans. When introducing changes, explain your reasoning and provide a clear new structure. With perceivers, maintain flexibility and avoid being too rigid. Present options instead of single solutions and encourage their involvement in planning. Be patient with their need to explore alternatives and do not pressure them to decide immediately unless absolutely necessary. Beyond these basic dimensions, it is also important to understand motivational patterns. Some people are primarily motivated by achievement and recognition. Others are motivated by security and stability. Some seek autonomy and independence. Others value connection and belonging. People motivated by recognition respond well to public acknowledgement, competitive challenges, and opportunities to demonstrate their abilities. People motivated by security prefer clear expectations, proven methods, and gradual changes. People motivated by autonomy desire the freedom to choose their own methods and dislike micromanagement. People motivated by connection thrive on collaboration, team unity, and shared experiences. The key to personality-based communication is not labeling people, but recognizing patterns that help you communicate more effectively. Most people have preferences across these dimensions, and those preferences influence how they naturally interpret and respond to information. Socially intelligent people develop the flexibility to adapt their communication style to the natural patterns of others while remaining authentic to their own personality. This does not mean being fake or manipulative. It means being considerate enough to present information in a way that others can easily understand and appreciate. Chapter 5. The Science of First Impressions and Snap Judgments. Within 7 seconds of meeting someone, your brain has already formed detailed judgments about their competence, reliability, social status, and likability. These instant evaluations occur automatically and unconsciously, but profoundly influence every subsequent interaction. Understanding the psychology of first impressions allows you to leverage these crucial initial moments. The science behind first impressions reveals that humans evolved to make rapid social judgments as a survival mechanism. When our ancestors encountered strangers, they needed to quickly determine if the person was a potential ally, a threat, or a mate. Those skilled at making rapid and accurate judgments were more likely to survive and reproduce. Today, your brain still operates according to these ancestral patterns. Within milliseconds of seeing someone's face, your brain automatically categorizes them across multiple dimensions. Research shows that people can accurately judge personality traits such as extroversion, conscientiousness, and emotional stability from photographs, often with remarkable accuracy. The most important factor in first impressions is facial structure and expression. Faces with pronounced jaws and defined cheekbones are automatically perceived as more dominant and competent. Faces with softer features and larger eyes are perceived as more trustworthy and approachable. Symmetrical faces are universally considered more attractive and associated with higher intelligence and better genes. However, facial expression matters even more than bone structure. A genuine smile activates the muscles around the eyes and creates what researchers call the Duchenne smile. This type of smile triggers positive responses in others' brains and immediately increases your likability. Fake smiles that only involve the mouth actually decrease trust because they signal possible deception. Eye contact patterns are equally crucial. Optimal eye contact varies across cultures, but in most Western contexts, maintaining eye contact about 60% of the time during a conversation signals confidence and sincerity. Too little eye contact suggests insecurity or dishonesty. Too much can seem aggressive or inappropriate. Posture and body language communicate status and confidence even before a single word is spoken. An upright posture with shoulders back signals self-assurance and competence. Slouched or hunched shoulders suggest insecurity or low energy. The space you occupy also matters. Confident people naturally take up more space with open gestures and relaxed postures. Vocal quality greatly influences first impressions. Deeper voices are automatically perceived as more authoritative and competent, leading both men and women to unconsciously lower their pitch to project authority. Speaking slightly slower conveys thoughtfulness and control, while speaking too quickly can indicate anxiety or lack of confidence. Clothing and personal grooming communicate social status, attention to detail, and respect for the situation. This does not mean expensive clothing is necessary, but your appearance should be appropriate for the context and show effort in your presentation. Research shows that people form impressions of your income, education, and social class in seconds based solely on attire. The psychological principle of primacy states that first impressions create a filter through which all subsequent information is interpreted. If someone initially perceives you as competent, they will interpret ambiguous behavior as competence. If their first impression is negative, they will seek confirming evidence and disregard contradictory information. This is why recovering from a poor first impression is difficult. It is not impossible, but requires consistent positive interactions over time to overcome initial negative judgments. It is far more efficient to invest energy in creating strong first impressions than to repair weak ones. The good news is that first impressions are largely controllable. Because they are based on observable behaviors and traits, you can consciously optimize your presentation for different situations. This does not mean being fake. It means intentionally highlighting your positive qualities from the outset. Context also affects first impressions. The same behavior can create completely different impressions depending on the environment. Casual attire suitable for a weekend barbecue could create a negative impression at a business meeting. Understanding the expectations and norms of each environment allows you to calibrate your presentation appropriately. Cultural context significantly influences first impression criteria. Direct eye contact, which conveys confidence in American culture, may be perceived as disrespectful in some Asian cultures. Typical physical touch in Mediterranean cultures may make Northern Europeans uncomfortable. Developing cultural intelligence means understanding these variations and adapting accordingly. The psychological concept of subtle cueing explains why first impressions can be surprisingly accurate. Humans are extraordinarily skilled at detecting subtle behavioral signals that reveal underlying personality traits. Microexpressions, posture, voice, tone, and movement patterns provide information about internal state and character. However, first impressions can also be systematically biased. The halo effect means that one positive trait can make everything else about a person seem more positive. Physical attractiveness creates a particularly strong halo effect. Attractive people are automatically perceived as more intelligent, competent, and moral, even when there is no logical connection between appearance and these qualities. Understanding these biases helps you leverage them ethically and avoid being misled when evaluating others. A good first impression does not guarantee competence or reliability. Similarly, a poor first impression due to nervousness or cultural differences may conceal exceptional ability. The key to mastering first impressions is developing the ability to consciously project the most important qualities in each specific situation without losing authenticity. This involves having a repertoire of presentation styles that you can access as needed to project authority, warmth, creativity, or trustworthiness. Chapter 6. Microexpressions and Facial Language. The human face is nature's most sophisticated communication device, capable of producing over 10,000 distinct expressions through the coordination of 43 muscles. Most people believe they can hide their true emotions behind social masks, but authentic feelings leak through microexpressions, ultra-rapid facial movements that occur in a fraction of a second, too fast for conscious control. Learning to interpret microexpressions allows you to access people's unfiltered emotional truth. Even if someone says they are fine, their face may show irritation. Even if they agree with your proposal, their expression may reveal doubt or skepticism. This skill is so powerful that it is used by FBI interrogators, Fortune 500 executives, and trauma therapists alike. The 7 universal microexpressions correspond to basic human emotions that appear identical across cultures, ages, and backgrounds. They are neurologically hardwired and appear automatically when experiencing the corresponding emotion, regardless of attempts to hide it. The first is happiness, characterized by the contraction of muscles around the eyes and the upward lift of the lip corners. Genuine happiness creates crow's feet around the eyes, known as a Duchenne smile. Fake smiles only involve the mouth and can be held much longer than genuine smiles, which naturally fade after a few seconds. Observing genuine happiness indicates that a person is experiencing authentic positive emotion. This information is valuable because it reveals how someone truly feels, not just what they claim. You can use this knowledge to build rapport by focusing conversations on topics that generate genuine positive responses. The second expression is sadness, identified by drooping upper eyelids, a lack of focus in the gaze, and a slight downturn of the lip corners. Inner eyebrow corners may lift and join, forming a triangular shape on the forehead. Microexpressions of sadness often appear when people discuss loss, disappointment, or regret, even if they try to appear strong or indifferent. Recognizing sadness allows you to respond with appropriate empathy and support. Sometimes people need acknowledgement of their pain more than solutions. Observing microexpressions of sadness is often more effective to validate feelings than immediately try to cheer them up or fix the situation. The third expression is anger, characterized by lowered and furrowed eyebrows, tension in the eyelids, and pressed or tightened lips. Nostrils may flare slightly. Microexpressions of anger can appear even when someone speaks calmly or tries to seem reasonable. They indicate frustration, threat, or opposition to the situation. Detecting anger early allows you to address underlying concerns before they escalate into open conflict. When noticing bursts of anger, pause to ensure the person feels understood, acknowledge their perspective, or adjust your approach to be less threatening to their interests or values. The fourth expression is fear, characterized by raised upper eyelids, tense lower eyelids, and raised, furrowed eyebrows. The mouth may open slightly and tighten at the corners. Microexpressions of fear reveal when someone feels threatened, insecure, or anxious, even if they attempt to appear confident. Understanding fear allows you to reassure, moderate your approach, or address specific concerns. Fear often disguises itself as resistance or disagreement, but the underlying emotion is uncertainty or worry about negative consequences. The fifth expression is surprise, manifested through raised eyebrows, wide eyes, and a dropped jaw. Surprise is usually the briefest micro-expression because the emotion itself is fleeting. A person is surprised until processing the event, then experiences a different emotion about the situation. Genuine surprise cannot be convincingly faked because the muscle movements are too complex and coordinated. Micro-expressions of surprise indicate when information is unexpected or when assumptions have been challenged. This is valuable for understanding if your message is being received as intended or if more context or explanation is needed. The sixth expression is disgust, identified by wrinkled nose, raised upper lip, and lowered eyebrows. Lower eyelids may lift slightly. Disgust can be physical, moral, or emotional. People display micro-expressions of disgust when encountering something repulsive, offensive, or deeply unpleasant. Recognizing disgust helps you understand when you have violated someone's values or boundaries, allowing you to adjust your approach. Apologize if appropriate or understand that the person may not align with your values or proposals. The seventh expression is contempt, the only asymmetric universal expression, manifested as a slight lift of one side of the mouth, creating a half smile or sneer. Contempt indicates feelings of superiority, often moral disapproval. It suggests someone sees themselves as superior to what they scorn. Contempt is among the most damaging emotions in relationships because it creates distance and hierarchy rather than connection. Observing micro-expressions of contempt signals serious relational or interaction problems that must be addressed directly. Beyond the 7 universal expressions, also observe micro-expressions of thought and concentration. When processing complex information, eyes may slightly unfocus, lips may purse or shift to one side, and subtle tension may appear around the eyes. Recognizing thought expressions helps you know when to wait for processing or when someone is avoiding providing an answer. The key to accurately interpreting micro-expressions is understanding that they often contrast with overall expression or verbal communication. Someone may smile and agree verbally while showing micro-expressions of anger or disgust. These contradictions hold the most valuable information, revealing the unfiltered emotional truth. However, remember that micro-expressions show what someone feels, not necessarily what they think or intend to do. Emotions provide important information, but must be interpreted contextually. Someone may show anger because they are frustrated with themselves, not because they disagree with you. Someone may show fear because they worry about implementation, not because they oppose your idea. The most socially intelligent approach is to use micro-expression reading to gather information rather than read minds. When noticing micro-expressions that contradict verbal communication, ask kind questions to better understand their perspective, reassure if anxious, or slow down if overwhelmed. Developing this skill requires practice and patience. Start by observing people in low-risk situations, during informal conversations, watching movies, or presentations. Pay attention to micro-expressions on your own face by practicing in front of a mirror or recording yourself. Remember that some people are naturally more expressive than others, and some have learned to control their expressions more effectively. Cultural context also influences expression patterns. Although the 7 universal emotions appear across cultures, the goal is not to become a human lie detector, but to develop greater sensitivity to emotional currents underlying superficial interactions. Chapter 7. Mastering Body Language. What people do not say. While people can carefully control their words and even manage facial expressions to some degree, body language operates largely outside conscious awareness. Posture, gestures, spatial positioning, and movement patterns continuously communicate confidence, emotional state, intentions, and social status. Learning to interpret and consciously direct body language provides access to a powerful communication channel largely ignored by most people. The foundation of body language psychology lies in understanding that your physical presentation directly influences both how others perceive you and how you feel about yourself. This is due to the bidirectional relationship between mind and body. Thoughts influence posture, but posture also affects thoughts and emotions. When you deliberately adopt confident body language, you begin to feel more confident due to hormonal changes triggered by your physical posture. Research by social psychologist Amy Cuddy demonstrated that holding powerful postures for just 2 minutes increases testosterone and decreases cortisol, creating genuine feelings of confidence and reducing stress. Body language is therefore not limited to external communication. The most fundamental element of confident body language is postural alignment. Standing or sitting with a straight spine, shoulders back, and head level projects competence and self-assurance. This alignment also optimizes breathing and energy flow, making you feel more alert and capable. Conversely, a slouched posture with the head forward indicates insecurity and low energy, while making you feel more tired and less confident. The key is finding balance between a rigid, military-like posture that can seem aggressive or uncomfortable and a relaxed alignment that maintains dignity and presence. Think of your spine as a stack of blocks that naturally balance with the head floating effortlessly above, rather than being held in place by muscle tension. Shoulder positioning is equally important for conveying confidence and status. Wide, relaxed shoulders suggest capability and emotional stability. Shoulders raised toward the ears indicate tension and anxiety. Shoulders leaning forward suggest defensiveness and low confidence. The ideal shoulder position is wide and relaxed, taking up appropriate space without appearing aggressive. Hand and arm positioning continuously provides information about emotional state and intentions. Open hand gestures with palms visible indicate honesty and openness. Hidden hands, whether in pockets, behind the back, or under tables, may generate suspicion or distance. Crossed arms create a physical barrier, subconsciously interpreted as an emotional or psychological barrier. Context is crucial for interpreting arm position. Someone may cross arms because they are cold, comfortable, or focused, not necessarily defensive. The key is observing patterns of behavior rather than interpreting single gestures in isolation. Gestures while speaking reveal confidence levels and thought patterns. Confident people use deliberate, controlled gestures that emphasize points without distracting. Their gestures often move away from the body, claiming space and drawing attention to their ideas. Nervous people often use repetitive gestures to self-soothe, such as touching their face, playing with hair, or adjusting clothing. Gesture size and speed also communicate messages. Longer, slower gestures suggest authority and thoughtfulness. Smaller, faster gestures may indicate excitement or anxiety. Effective speakers vary gesture patterns to match content and emotional tone. Spatial positioning and proxemics reveal social dynamics and relationship quality. How people distance themselves, angle their bodies, and mirror others provides information about rapport, status, and comfort levels. In most Western cultures, intimate distance is reserved for close family and romantic partners. Personal distance is for friends and casual acquaintances. Social distance is appropriate for business or formal interactions. Public distance is for presentations and speeches. Consistently maintaining greater distance than typical can indicate discomfort, disagreement, or desire for emotional space. Approaching closer than cultural norms may indicate interest, attraction, or an attempt to assert dominance. Body orientation is another crucial element. Engaged and interested people orient their entire body toward the speaker, not just their head. Disengaged people or those seeking exit may orient feet and body toward doors, even if maintaining eye contact and polite conversation. Mirroring is a powerful tool in body language psychology. People subconsciously imitate posture, gestures, and energy levels of those they feel empathy or connection with. You can use subtle, deliberate mirroring to generate rapport, but must be natural and respectful. Obvious imitation feels manipulative and destroys trust. Effective mirroring involves matching overall energy and posture rather than copying specific gestures. If someone leans forward and speaks energetically, you can lean slightly forward and increase your own energy. If someone speaks softly and appears relaxed, match their calmer energy and relaxed posture. The concept of personal space bubbles is culturally specific, but universally important. Everyone has invisible boundaries around their body that feel comfortable or uncomfortable if crossed. Respecting these boundaries builds trust, while violating them creates tension and defensive responses. Status and dominance are continuously negotiated through body language positioning. Higher status individuals typically take up more space, use expansive gestures, and maintain relaxed postures. They move slowly and deliberately. Lower status individuals tend to shrink, use restricted gestures, and show nervous energy. True confidence differs from dominance displays. Confident body language is relaxed and natural rather than forced or aggressive. It claims appropriate space without invading others and projects capability without diminishing anyone. Nervous habits and self-soothing behaviors are among the most revealing aspects of body language. Touching the face, neck, or hair, fiddling with objects, repetitive movements, and changes in breathing patterns indicate anxiety or internal discomfort. Recognizing these patterns in yourself allows you to manage anxiety and project more confidence. Observing them in others allows you to provide reassurance or adjust your approach to be less threatening. Integrating all these elements creates what researchers call presence, the quality of being fully engaged, confident, and authentic in social interactions. Presence cannot be faked because it requires alignment between internal state and external presentation. When your thoughts, emotions, and body language are congruent, others perceive authenticity and respond with greater trust and respect. Mastering body language requires self-awareness and awareness of others. You need to understand your habitual patterns and how they affect others. You also need to be sensitive to nonverbal cues from others to respond appropriately to their comfort level and emotional state. The goal is not to manipulate, but to be more conscious and intentional in this powerful communication channel. When your body language genuinely reflects confidence, interest, and respect, it enhances all interactions and relationships. Chapter 8: Vocal Patterns and the Psychology of Tone. Your voice conveys far more information than the words you speak. The tone, pace, volume, and rhythm of your speech communicate your emotional state, confidence level, social status, and intentions more powerfully than the actual message. Most people completely ignore this vocal communication channel, missing crucial information about others and failing to optimize their own vocal presence. The psychology of vocal communication reveals that humans are extraordinarily sensitive to vocal cues. Even before processing the meaning of someone's words, our brains automatically analyze their vocal patterns for information about emotional state, reliability, and social standing. This occurs in milliseconds and influences our entire response to the person and their message. The core element of vocal psychology is tone, which directly correlates with perceived authority and competence. Lower voices are universally associated with leadership, intelligence, and trustworthiness. This is why both men and women unconsciously lower their pitch when they want to project authority or be taken seriously. However, the key is not simply to speak at the lowest possible register, as this can sound artificial and forced. The goal is to speak from your optimal tonal range, the lower third of your natural vocal range, where your voice has the greatest resonance and power. This requires proper breathing, support, and the relaxation of unnecessary tension in the throat and jaw. Vocal resonance refers to how your voice vibrates through your body and fills the space around you. A resonant voice sounds rich, full, and authoritative, while a thin voice lacks presence and authority. Resonance is created through proper breath support, relaxed throat muscles, and using the entire body as a resonating chamber. To develop better resonance, focus on breathing deeply from the diaphragm instead of shallowly from the chest. When speaking, imagine your voice originating from your chest rather than your throat. This produces a richer, more powerful sound that others find more convincing and trustworthy. Speech rhythm reveals confidence and thought patterns. People who speak too quickly often appear anxious, nervous, or insecure. They can also be difficult to understand and follow. Those who speak too slowly may appear unsure, unintelligent, or condescending. The optimal speaking rhythm varies with context, but generally falls between 140 and 160 words per minute. In most professional situations, confident speakers vary their rhythm strategically. They slow down to emphasize points, speed up to generate energy and enthusiasm, and use pauses effectively so that key ideas are absorbed. They understand that silence is not an empty space to be filled, but a powerful tool for emphasis and comprehension. The strategic use of pauses is one of the least utilized tools in spoken communication. Most people fear silence and rush to fill it with filler words like deliberate pauses. However, enhance the perception of intelligence and authority while giving the audience time to process and absorb the message. Pauses serve multiple psychological functions. They create anticipation, focus attention on what comes next, allow thoughts to be organized and expressed precisely, and give others time to process complex information. They also demonstrate confidence, as only confident speakers are comfortable with temporary silence. Volume patterns convey respect and social awareness. Speaking too loudly can seem aggressive or inconsiderate, while speaking too softly can appear insecure or force others to strain to hear you. Appropriate volume depends on the size of the space, the number of people present, and cultural context. Confident speakers modulate their volume according to the situation and use changes in volume to emphasize points. They may speak more softly to draw people in during intimate or serious moments, or increase volume to energize and motivate during inspiring segments. Vocal variety keeps listeners engaged and conveys emotional intelligence. Monotone delivery suggests boredom, lack of commitment, or emotional flatness. Speakers who vary their tone, rhythm, and volume appear more interesting, intelligent, and emotionally aware. This does not mean being artificially dramatic or theatrical. Natural vocal variety reflects the emotional content of your message and genuine engagement with the topic. When you're excited about an idea, your voice naturally becomes more energetic. When discussing something serious, your tone naturally becomes deeper. Articulation and clarity demonstrate respect for your audience and confidence in your message. Mumbling, dragging words, or speaking with poor articulation makes you seem less intelligent and less confident. It also forces listeners to work harder to understand you, which can cause frustration and disconnect. Clear articulation requires proper positioning of the mouth and tongue, adequate mouth opening, and deliberate pronunciation of consonants. It is especially important to pronounce word endings clearly and speak slowly enough that all syllables can be heard distinctly. Vocal fry, upward inflection, and filler words are modern speech patterns that significantly undermine perceived competence and authority. Vocal fry is the creaky sound produced when a voice drops to its lowest register. Upward inflection is the pattern of ending statements with a rising tone, making them sound like questions. Filler words are the uncertain interjections sprinkled throughout speech. These three patterns indicate insecurity, uncertainty, or lack of preparation. They make speakers appear younger, less confident, and less authoritative. Eliminating these patterns requires awareness and practice, but the improvement in how others perceive you is dramatic. Emotional regulation through vocal control is a powerful tool for managing both your own state and the responses of others. By consciously controlling your vocal patterns, you can influence your emotional state. Speaking more slowly and deeply can calm anxiety. Speaking with more energy can increase motivation and enthusiasm. You can also use vocal patterns to influence others' emotional states. A calm and steady voice can reduce the intensity of conflict. An energetic and enthusiastic voice can motivate and inspire. A warm and gentle voice can provide comfort and support. Matching and mirroring vocal patterns can generate empathy, but like body language imitation, it should be subtle and natural. You can match someone's energy level, rhythm, or speech volume without copying their exact vocal patterns. This creates a sense of connection and understanding. Cultural considerations significantly influence vocal communication. Every culture has different norms for appropriate volume, pace, directness, and emotional expression. What sounds confident in one culture may seem aggressive in another. What appears appropriately enthusiastic in one context may appear unprofessional in another. Developing vocal awareness requires both self-control and feedback from others. Record yourself speaking in different situations to become aware of your habitual patterns. Observe how your voice changes when you are nervous, excited, angry, or confident. Practice speaking in your optimal tonal range with good breath support and clear articulation. The goal is not to develop an artificial professional voice, but to be more conscious and intentional in using this powerful communication channel. When your vocal patterns authentically reflect confidence, engagement, and respect for others, they enrich your message and strengthen your relationships. Your voice is an instrument that can be developed and refined throughout your life. With awareness and practice, you can learn to use vocal patterns to project presence and authority, helping you achieve your goals without losing the authenticity of your personality and values. Chapter 9. The Psychology of Influence and Persuasion. Influence is not about manipulation or coercion. It is about understanding the psychological principles that guide human decision-making and using that knowledge to create genuine value for others while achieving your own legitimate goals. The most effective influencers do not force people to change their minds. They create conditions in which people naturally want to align with their ideas. Ethical influence is based on the understanding that all human decisions are ultimately emotional, even when people believe they are being purely rational. Neuroscientific research shows that people with damage to the emotional centers of the brain struggle to make decisions, even simple ones, despite intact logical reasoning abilities. This means effective influence must address both the emotional and rational aspects of decision-making. The first principle of influence psychology is reciprocity, the deep human need to return favors and maintain balance in relationships. When someone does something for us, we feel psychologically compelled to do something in return. This principle is so powerful that it works even when the initial favor is small, unsolicited, or comes from someone we do not particularly like. Reciprocity works because it serves an important evolutionary function. Humans skilled at building reciprocal relationships were more likely to receive help in times of need, increasing their chances of survival and reproduction. Today, this ancient mechanism still operates strongly in modern interactions. To use reciprocity ethically, focus on providing genuine value before asking for anything in return. This can mean sharing helpful information, making useful introductions, offering your expertise, or simply giving someone your full attention and respect. The key is that your initial contribution is meaningful to the other person, not just to you. The second principle is commitment and consistency. People have a deep psychological need to appear consistent with their previous decisions, statements, and beliefs. Once someone takes a stance or makes a commitment, they feel pressure to align future behavior with that commitment, even if circumstances change. This principle is especially powerful when commitments are public or when people feel they chose their position freely rather than being pressured. Written commitments are more powerful than verbal ones, and commitments that require effort or sacrifice are stronger than easy ones. To enhance commitment and consistency, help people articulate their own values, goals, and priorities. Ask questions that lead them to express why your proposal aligns with what they already believe or want. Once they have stated their position, they feel internal pressure to follow through on their own words. The third principle is social proof, the tendency to look to others for guidance on appropriate behavior, especially in uncertain situations. When people are unsure what to do, they observe what others in similar situations have done and follow that example. This is why testimonials, case studies, and examples of what people like your audience have done are so persuasive. Social proof is most effective when examples come from people with whom the audience identifies. A corporate executive is more likely to be influenced by what other executives have done than by what college students have done. Someone from a particular region or industry will be more influenced by examples from their own context. To use social proof effectively, collect and share relevant examples of others who have made similar decisions or achieved similar results. Be specific about the similarities between your examples and your audience's situation whenever possible. Facilitate direct contact between potential clients and satisfied clients. The fourth principle is liking. People are more easily influenced by those they like and feel connected to. We like people who are similar to us, who genuinely compliment us, who are physically attractive, and who we associate with positive experiences. We also like people who appear to like us. Generating liking requires genuine interest in others and the ability to find authentic connections and similarities. This does not mean being fake or manipulative, but rather being genuinely curious about others and highlighting points in common when they exist. The fifth principle is authority. People comply with experts and those who hold legitimate power. However, authority does not always require formal credentials or titles. Demonstrated expertise, confident presentation, and respect from others can create perceived authority. To generate appropriate authority, focus on developing authentic expertise in your field and finding credible ways to demonstrate it. This can include sharing relevant credentials, displaying symbols of expertise, or having others vouch for your qualifications. Authority must be balanced with approachability. Overemphasizing status can create distance rather than influence. The sixth principle is scarcity. People value things more when they are rare, limited, or potentially inaccessible. This principle works because scarcity often signals real-world value. It also triggers loss aversion, the psychological reality that people feel the pain of losing something more intensely than the pleasure of gaining it. Scarcity must be genuine to be ethical. Creating false urgency or artificial limitations is manipulative and ultimately undermines trust. When scarcity is genuine, such as limited time, exclusive access, or finite resources, highlighting these limitations can motivate action. Framing psychology dramatically affects how people interpret and respond to information. The same factual information can be presented in ways that emphasize benefits or costs, gains or losses, opportunities or risks. People's responses change significantly depending on how information is framed, even when the underlying facts remain identical. Effective framing requires understanding the audience's values, fears, and motivations. For risk-averse people, emphasize how your proposal reduces risk or prevents loss. For opportunity seekers, highlight potential gains and advantages. For relationship-oriented people, emphasize how your proposal strengthens connections or benefits others. Timing significantly affects influence success. People are more receptive to certain types of influence at different moments and contexts. They are more open to new ideas when in a good mood, less defensive when they feel safe and respected, and more likely to commit when they feel in control of the decision. Understanding resistance is crucial for ethical influence. When people resist your ideas, they're usually protecting something they value: autonomy, beliefs, resources, or relationships. Effective influence addresses these underlying concerns rather than simply opposing resistance with more force. The most powerful form of influence is inspirational motivation, connecting your proposals to people's deepest values, aspirations, and purpose. When people see how your ideas contribute to their higher goals and values, they do not just comply. They become enthusiastic advocates. This requires understanding what truly matters to each person beyond superficial desires. What are their core values? What legacy do they want to create? What would make them feel proud and fulfilled? When you can authentically connect your proposals to these deeper motivations, influence becomes inspiration. Chapter 10. Emotional Contagion. How do emotions spread? Human emotions are as contagious as viruses, spreading from person to person through unconscious mimicry, shared attention, and neural synchronization. Understanding emotional contagion gives you the power to consciously influence the emotional atmosphere of any interaction while protecting yourself from absorbing negative emotions that do not serve you. The science of emotional contagion shows that when you are in the presence of another person, your brain automatically mimics their facial expressions, posture, vocal patterns, and breathing rhythms. This mimicry occurs through the mirror neuron system, specialized brain cells activated both when you experience an emotion and when you observe someone else experiencing it. This neural mimicry creates what researchers call emotional convergence. Within minutes of interacting with someone, your emotional states begin to synchronize. If you are with someone anxious, your stress hormones rise. If you are with someone genuinely enthusiastic, you feel more energetic and positive. This happens regardless of your conscious thoughts about the person or situation. The evolutionary purpose of emotional contagion was to create group cohesion and coordinate collective responses to threats or opportunities. When a tribe member sensed danger and felt fear, that emotion quickly spread through the group, allowing everyone to respond appropriately even before consciously understanding the threat. Today, the same mechanism operates in boardrooms, classrooms, and family gatherings. The practical implications are enormous. Your emotional state affects those around you, and their emotional states affect you. Emotional regulation is therefore not just personal, but social. When you manage your own emotions skillfully, you contribute to the emotional health of everyone you interact with. The first level of emotional contagion is automatic imitation. When someone smiles genuinely, your brain automatically activates the same facial muscles, creating the physical experience of smiling, even if you are not aware of it. When someone speaks with a tense and rapid voice, your breathing and heart rate unconsciously accelerate to match theirs. This imitation occurs in milliseconds and operates below the level of awareness. You can observe this phenomenon in restaurants or cafes. Notice how couples unconsciously mimic each other's posture, how groups adapt to each other's energy levels, and how one person's laughter triggers laughter in others. The second level is emotional convergence, where physical imitation leads to actual emotional experience. Since emotions are partially created through physical sensations and expressions, mimicking someone's emotional expressions makes you feel diluted versions of their emotions. When you unconsciously imitate someone's stress posture and rapid breathing, you begin to feel stressed. This convergence is stronger with people you feel connected to or identify with. You are more likely to catch emotions from family, close friends, or admired individuals than from strangers or people you dislike. Prolonged exposure to anyone's emotional state can create convergence, which is why working in toxic environments eventually affects even the most resilient people. The third level is emotional amplification, where groups collectively intensify emotional experiences. When multiple people share the same emotion, it becomes stronger than what any individual would feel alone. That is why crowds can feel euphoric at concerts, terrified during emergencies, or angry during protests. Shared emotional experience amplifies beyond what each individual contributed. Understanding amplification explains why team dynamics are so powerful and why emotional leadership is critical. One person's genuine enthusiasm can energize an entire group. One person's negativity can drain collective energy and motivation. Positive emotional contagion creates upward spirals in relationships and groups. When you consistently bring positive emotions, such as enthusiasm, calm confidence, or genuine warmth to interactions, others begin to associate those feelings with your presence. This makes people want to spend time with you and creates opportunities for deeper connection and influence. Positive emotional contagion must be authentic. Fake enthusiasm or forced positivity is quickly detected and can produce negative reactions. People's mirror neuron systems are sophisticated enough to distinguish between genuine and artificial emotional expressions. Negative emotional contagion creates downward spirals that can poison relationships and group dynamics. Chronic negativity, anxiety, anger, or depression spreads through social networks, affecting everyone's mental health and performance. Protecting your emotional environment is crucial for well-being and success. The key is that you have significant control over emotional contagion patterns. While you cannot completely prevent emotions from spreading, you can consciously choose which emotions to amplify and which to resist. This requires developing both emotional awareness and emotional regulation skills. Emotional awareness involves recognizing your own emotional states as they arise and understanding how they affect others. It also involves being sensitive to emotional currents in your environment and noticing when you are absorbing emotions that do not originate from your own experience. Emotional regulation involves developing the ability to consciously change your emotional state when necessary. This does not mean suppressing authentic emotions, but having tools to manage your emotional state in ways that support your goals and relationships. Techniques include breathing exercises, physical movement, mental reframing, and environmental adjustments. Creating positive emotional contagion requires intentionality in the energy you bring to interactions. Before important conversations or meetings, take time to center yourself and consciously choose the emotional state you want to project. If you want others to feel calm and secure, you must first cultivate those states within yourself. This involves controlling your physiology, posture, breathing, facial expression, and vocal tone. These physical elements reflect and create emotional states. When you consciously adopt the physiology of confidence, enthusiasm, or focus, you begin to feel those emotions more intensely and transmit them more effectively to others. Protecting yourself from negative emotional contagion requires setting boundaries and developing resilient strategies. This may mean limiting time with chronically negative people, creating physical distance during emotionally intense situations, or developing mental techniques to remain centered when surrounded by difficult emotions. An effective strategy is the practice of conscious breathing. When you find yourself in an emotionally challenging environment, focus on maintaining slow, deep, and rhythmic breaths. This helps regulate your nervous system and prevents you from unconsciously adapting to the stress patterns of others. Another strategy is emotional labeling. Consciously recognize when you experience emotions that do not belong to you. When you notice feelings of anxiety, anger, or sadness without a clear personal cause, Ask yourself if you might be absorbing these emotions from your surroundings. This awareness creates a space between you and the emotion, reducing its impact. The most advanced practice is emotional leadership. Consciously use emotional contagion to improve group dynamics and relationships. This means taking responsibility for the emotional environment you create and strategically using positive emotions to influence outcomes. Emotional leaders understand that their emotional state is never purely personal. They recognize that calm confidence during a crisis can stabilize an entire team, that genuine enthusiasm for a project can motivate exceptional performance, and that compassionate presence in difficult times can provide healing and hope to others. The goal is not to manipulate others through emotional contagion, but to be more aware and responsible for this natural psychological process. When you understand that emotions spread, you can choose to be a source of positive emotional influence while protecting yourself from negative emotional environments that do not contribute to your growth or well-being. Chapter 11. Social hierarchy and power dynamics. Every human interaction involves subtle negotiations of relative social position and influence. Understanding these power dynamics allows you to navigate social hierarchies effectively, build appropriate authority, and create collaborative relationships rather than competitive ones. This knowledge is essential for leadership, professional development, and building respect in any social context. Humans are fundamentally hierarchical creatures. This is not about domination or oppression. It is about the basic organizational structures that allow groups to function effectively. Hierarchies exist to coordinate group behavior, allocate resources efficiently, and reduce conflicts through clearly defined roles. The key is learning to operate within these natural patterns while maintaining integrity and respecting the dignity of others. Social status is communicated through hundreds of subtle behavioral signals that operate unconsciously. High-status individuals often move with greater deliberation, occupy more space, speak with more vocal authority, and display more relaxed body language. They make more direct eye contact, interrupt more strategically, and receive increased attention and deference from others. However, true high status differs drastically from displays of dominance or aggressive posturing. Elevated and authentic status is characterized by calmness, confidence, generosity toward others, and the ability to elevate those around you. It is about having enough security in your own value, not to need to diminish others to feel important. The foundation of healthy status is competence, being genuinely skilled in areas that matter in your context. This can include professional expertise, emotional intelligence, problem-solving ability, or leadership skills. People naturally gravitate toward those who demonstrate superior capability in areas they value. Developing status based on competence requires continuous learning and skill development. It means achieving excellence in what you do while developing broader abilities that enhance your effectiveness. This includes communication skills, emotional regulation, strategic thinking, and the ability to understand and work with different personality types. The second element of healthy status is social value, your ability to contribute positively to the lives and goals of others. High-status individuals are resources for their communities. They share knowledge, make valuable connections, provide opportunities, and help solve problems. They are people others want to be around because interactions with them are consistently beneficial. Creating social value requires shifting from a scarcity mindset to one of abundance. Instead of hoarding opportunities, information, or relationships, you seek ways to share them generously. This seemingly counterintuitive approach actually increases your status, demonstrating both access to resources and confidence in your ability to create more value. Presence is the third component of natural status. It involves fully engaging in interactions, maintaining appropriate eye contact, speaking with conviction, and projecting serene confidence even in difficult situations. Presence cannot be faked, as it requires authentic self-assurance and emotional regulation. Developing presence begins with internal work, feeling comfortable with yourself, clarifying your values and goals, and building genuine confidence through competence and contribution. External presence naturally arises from internal certainty and self-acceptance. Status signals through material possessions, credentials, or association with high-status individuals can temporarily enhance your position, but they are ultimately less powerful than status earned through genuine value creation. People quickly detect artificial appearances of status and may even resent them if not backed by authentic contribution. The most effective approach is to let your work and character speak for themselves, being mindful of how status symbols affect others' perception. This may mean dressing appropriately for context, showing relevant credentials when helpful, or mentioning significant achievements when relevant to the conversation. Power dynamics in groups follow predictable patterns that can be learned and managed skillfully. In any group, people naturally fall into roles of leaders, followers, supporters, and challengers based on their personalities, competencies, and goals. Understanding these roles helps you position yourself effectively and collaborate with others. Leaders set direction, make decisions, and take responsibility for outcomes. They usually possess the strongest combination of competence, confidence, and communication skills. Leadership, however, can be situational. The same person may lead in one context and follow in another, depending on relevant experience and group needs. Followers provide essential support, implementation, and feedback. Effective followers are not passive or servile. They actively contribute while maintaining their own judgment and values. The ability to follow skillfully is as important as the ability to lead. Supporters provide encouragement, resources, and assistance. They help build consensus, maintain group morale, and ensure everyone feels included and valued. Supporters often possess high emotional intelligence and act as social connectors within groups. Challengers question assumptions, promote higher standards, and prevent groupthink. They are essential for innovation and avoiding critical errors, but must challenge constructively rather than destructively. Effective challengers critique ideas while supporting people. Navigating office politics and organizational hierarchies requires understanding formal and informal power structures. Formal power comes from titles, roles, and official authority. Informal power comes from relationships, expertise, and personal influence. Often, informal power is more important than the official hierarchy. Generating influence within organizations involves developing relationships at multiple levels, understanding unwritten rules and cultural norms, and finding ways to provide value that others recognize and appreciate. This requires political awareness without being manipulative or compromising your integrity. The concept of social capital, the value of relationships and reputation, is crucial for long-term success in any domain. Social capital is built through consistent reliability, generous contribution to the success of others, and maintaining high ethical standards, even during challenges. Gender, cultural context, and other demographic factors significantly influence status and power dynamics. What signals high status in one culture may be inappropriate in another. Understanding these variations allows you to adapt your approach while remaining true to your core values and personality. The goal is not to dominate others or climb hierarchies at any cost, but to understand how these natural human patterns operate so you can navigate them skillfully and ethically. This means developing genuine competence, providing real value, and treating others with respect regardless of their position in the hierarchy. When you understand social hierarchy and power dynamics, you can build appropriate authority without arrogance, follow leadership without losing autonomy, and create collaborative relationships that benefit everyone involved. You become someone others naturally want to work with and support because you understand how to operate within social structures while maintaining integrity and helping others succeed. Chapter 12. Conflict, psychology, and mastery of resolution. Conflict is an inevitable part of human interaction, yet most people manage it poorly because they lack understanding of the psychology underlying disagreements and disputes. Learning to manage conflict skillfully transforms it from a destructive force into an opportunity for deeper understanding, stronger relationships, and better solutions. This skill is essential for leadership, healthy relationships, and personal peace. The first principle of conflict psychology is understanding that most conflicts do not revolve around the superficial issues being argued. They concern deeper needs, fears, and values that feel threatened. Someone might argue about budget allocation when in reality they're concerned about respect and influence. Someone might fight over household tasks when they actually feel unappreciated or overwhelmed. Effective conflict resolution requires identifying and addressing these underlying concerns rather than focusing solely on surface issues. This means listening to the emotions and needs beneath people's positions and helping them articulate what they are truly trying to protect or achieve. The second principle is recognizing that conflict triggers primitive survival responses in the human brain. When people feel threatened, criticized, or disrespected, their amygdala activates the fight or flight response, flooding the system with stress hormones and reducing access to higher-order thinking skills. This is why people say and do things in conflict that they later regret. Understanding this neurological reality helps maintain calm during conflicts and avoid intensifying others' defensive reactions. By recognizing that aggressive or defensive behavior comes from a threatened nervous system rather than a rational mind, you can respond with appropriate de-escalation instead of counterattacking. The third principle is that people's perception of fairness is more important than objective fairness in determining their satisfaction with conflict resolution. Someone may accept an objectively worse outcome if they feel the process was fair and their concerns were heard. Conversely, they may reject a better outcome if they feel manipulated or ignored. This means the way conflict is managed is as important as the solutions reached. Treating people with respect, sincerely listening to their concerns, and involving them in problem-solving fosters engagement and satisfaction, even when compromises are necessary. Emotional regulation is the foundation of effective conflict management. Maintaining calm, focus, and clear thinking during disagreements allows you to make better decisions and help others regain rationality. This requires developing tolerance for discomfort, managing your triggers, and maintaining perspective during difficult conversations. Emotional regulation begins with recognizing early warning signs of escalation, such as changes in breathing, bodily tension, or thought patterns. When you notice these signs, you can use techniques such as deep breathing, mental reframing, or taking breaks to maintain balance. Active listening during conflict means genuinely trying to understand the other person's perspective rather than simply waiting for your turn to speak. This involves reflecting on what you hear, asking clarifying questions, and acknowledging the validity of their concerns, even if you disagree with their solutions. Most people defend their positions in conflict instead of exploring their underlying interests. Positions are the specific solutions people want, while interests are the underlying needs those solutions aim to address. By focusing on interests rather than positions, you can often find creative solutions that meet everyone's fundamental needs. For example, if two colleagues fight over the corner office, the conflict over space seems zero-sum. But if you explore their interests, one person values recognition of status, while the other needs a quiet space to focus. You could find solutions that address both needs without anyone being assigned a specific office. The language you use during conflict dramatically affects outcomes. Accusatory language beginning with "you always" or "you never" triggers defensiveness and escalation. Descriptive language that focuses on specific behaviors and their impact creates space for productive dialogue. Instead of saying someone is being disrespectful, you might say, "When meetings start before everyone arrives, I feel my time is undervalued and worry about missing important information." This approach describes the problem without attacking the person's character. Timing in conflict resolution significantly influences success. Attempting to resolve serious disagreements when people are tired, stressed, or distracted often worsens the situation. Creating the right time and space for difficult conversations shows respect and increases the chances of productive dialogue. The concept of saving face is crucial. People need to be able to change positions or admit mistakes without losing dignity or respect. Creating opportunities for graceful exits and face-saving often facilitates resolution when people are stuck in rigid positions. This may involve acknowledging that someone's original position made sense given the information at the time, focusing on changed circumstances rather than who was right or wrong, or finding ways for everyone to contribute to the final solution. Cultural differences significantly affect conflict styles and resolution preferences. Some cultures value direct confrontation and explicit communication during conflict. Others prefer indirect approaches that preserve harmony and allow individuals to save face. Understanding these differences helps you adapt your approach appropriately. Power imbalances complicate conflict resolution because they affect people's willingness to express true concerns and their ability to influence outcomes. When significant power differences exist, the person with greater power has the responsibility to create psychological safety and ensure that less powerful voices are heard and respected. Mediation skills become essential when helping others resolve conflicts. This involves maintaining neutrality, helping people communicate more effectively, and guiding them toward mutually acceptable solutions without imposing your preferences. Effective mediators focus on the process rather than the content. They help people relax, listen to each other, identify common ground, and generate creative solutions. They manage emotional climate and ensure everyone feels heard and respected. The goal of conflict resolution should be restoration, not victory. This means repairing relationships, rebuilding trust, and creating stronger foundations for future collaboration. It often involves addressing systemic issues that cause the conflict rather than simply resolving the immediate problem. Follow-up after conflict is essential to prevent recurring issues. This may involve checking how agreements are functioning, addressing new concerns that arise, and continuing to strengthen relationships damaged during the conflict. Mastering conflict psychology and resolution skills transforms disagreements into opportunities for deeper understanding and stronger relationships. You become someone others trust to handle difficult situations fairly and effectively, enhancing your influence and leadership in all areas of life. Chapter 13: Building Unshakable Charisma and Magnetic Presence. Charisma is not a mysterious gift some people are born with. It is a set of behaviors and mental patterns that can be learned, creating compelling presence and natural influence. Charismatic people make others feel energized, valued, and inspired. They have the ability to capture attention without demanding it and influence others through attraction rather than pressure. The foundation of charisma is presence, the quality of being fully engaged and focused on the present moment and the people around you. When you're truly present, others perceive your full attention and energy, which is rare and powerful in our distracted world. Presence cannot be faked. It requires genuine interest and engagement. Developing presence begins with managing your internal state. This means clearing mental clutter, releasing anxiety about the future or regrets about the past, and focusing entirely on what is happening right now. It requires disconnecting from internal self-monitoring and criticism to be fully available to others. Physical presence involves posture, breathing, and energy level. Charismatic people tend to have upright and relaxed posture, suggesting confidence and openness. They breathe deeply and slowly, creating calm energy and allowing their voice to resonate fully. They move deliberately rather than frenetically, signaling control over themselves and their environment. Emotional presence involves being authentic and emotionally available. Charismatic people do not hide enthusiasm, concern, or other appropriate emotions. They allow others to see genuine reactions while maintaining emotional regulation. This authenticity creates connection because people feel they're interacting with a real person rather than a social mask. Mental presence involves giving others your full intellectual attention. This means actively listening, asking thoughtful questions, and fully engaging with their ideas. When someone feels you're truly focused on understanding them, they experience a form of attention increasingly rare in our multitasking culture. The second element of charisma is power. This is not power over others, but personal power derived from confidence, competence, and the ability to influence the environment. This type of power makes others feel secure and builds trust in your ability to face challenges and generate positive results. Developing personal power requires genuine competence in areas that matter to you and others. This may include professional expertise, problem-solving skills, emotional intelligence, or leadership ability. The key is achieving excellence in areas that generate real value rather than simply seeking the appearance of competence. Confidence is a crucial component of personal power, but must be grounded in reality, not false bravado. True confidence comes from knowing your abilities, accepting your limitations, and believing in your capacity to learn and grow. It is characterized by calm self-assurance rather than loud self-promotion. The ability to make decisions and take action demonstrates personal power. Charismatic people do not constantly seek approval or consensus before moving forward. They gather relevant information, make deliberate decisions, and take responsibility for the outcomes. This decisiveness builds trust in their leadership. The third element of charisma is warmth, the ability to make others feel valued, understood, and cared for. Warmth creates emotional safety and makes people want to be around you. It is expressed through genuine interest in others, empathy for their experiences, and generosity with your attention and resources. Developing warmth requires cultivating genuine curiosity about others. This means taking interest in their thoughts, feelings, experiences, and perspectives rather than just waiting for opportunities to talk about yourself. Curious people ask better questions, listen more attentively, and make others feel more interesting and important. Empathy is essential for warmth. It involves the ability to understand and share others' emotional experiences, see situations from their perspective, and respond with appropriate compassion. Empathy cannot be faked. It requires genuine concern for others' well-being. Generosity amplifies warmth. This does not necessarily mean financial generosity, but generosity with time, attention, knowledge, and support. Charismatic people look for ways to help others succeed and feel good about themselves. They share credit generously and take responsibility when things go wrong. The integration of presence, power, and warmth creates what researchers call charismatic leadership. When these three elements work together, they create a magnetic attraction that draws people in and inspires them to follow your vision and direction. However, charisma must be balanced appropriately for different situations. Sometimes more power and less warmth is needed during crisis management or when making difficult decisions. Sometimes more warmth and less power is needed to comfort someone or build relationships. The most charismatic people can adjust their balance according to situational needs. Storytelling is a powerful tool to express charisma. Humans are naturally drawn to stories, and compelling storytellers capture attention and create emotional connections. Effective storytelling involves clear structure, vivid details, appropriate emotion, and relevance to the audience's interests and needs. The stories you tell should illustrate your values, demonstrate your character, and provide value to your listeners. They should be authentic experiences, not fabricated tales meant to impress. The best charismatic storytellers share both successes and failures, showing vulnerability and strength. Vision and inspiration are advanced charisma skills. This involves the ability to see possibilities others overlook, articulate compelling futures, and inspire others to work towards shared goals. Visionary charisma requires understanding what deeply motivates people and connecting your ideas to their higher aspirations. Creating an inspiring vision involves painting pictures of positive futures that people can imagine themselves being part of. It means helping others see how their individual contributions serve larger purposes and how working together can create something more meaningful than what any individual could achieve alone. Energy management is crucial for maintaining charisma over time. Charismatic presence requires significant mental and emotional energy. Therefore, you need strategies to sustain your vitality and avoid burnout. This includes adequate rest, stress management, and regular engagement in activities that restore your enthusiasm and optimism. The goal of developing charisma should not be manipulation or ego gratification, but the ability to create positive influence and meaningful connections with others. When your charisma is based on genuine interest in others and commitment to valuable goals, it becomes a force for positive change rather than selfish manipulation. Authentic charisma attracts people who share your values and vision while repelling those who do not align with your principles. This natural selection process helps you build relationships and opportunities that truly contribute to your goals and values rather than simply providing superficial social success. Chapter 14. Advanced Conversation Psychology. Conversation is the primary medium through which relationships are built, influence is exercised, and social intelligence is demonstrated. Yet most people are unaware of the sophisticated psychological principles that govern effective dialogue. Mastering the psychology of conversation allows you to connect deeply with others, navigate complex social situations, and create meaningful interactions for everyone involved. The foundation of conversational mastery lies in understanding that every conversation serves multiple functions simultaneously. On the surface, conversations exchange information, but beneath, they establish rapport, negotiate status, build trust, and create emotional experiences. The most skilled conversationalists manage all these levels simultaneously. The first moments of any conversation set the tone and trajectory for everything that follows. Research shows that people form lasting impressions of their interlocutors in these initial exchanges. This means how you start a conversation significantly affects its outcomes. Effective conversation openers demonstrate interest in the other person, establish common ground, or introduce interesting topics that invite engagement. They avoid generic questions like, "How are you?" which often elicit automatic responses. Instead, they may reference shared experiences, current events relevant to both parties, or observations about the immediate environment. Question psychology reveals that the type of questions asked significantly influences the depth and direction of conversations. Closed-ended questions that can be answered with yes or no tend to create exchanges similar to an interview, which feel formal and limited. Open-ended questions that require elaboration create space for more meaningful dialogue. However, the most impactful questions are those that invite reflection and self-discovery. Instead of asking what someone does for a living, you could ask which aspects of their work motivate them the most. This approach helps people reflect more deeply on their experiences while providing you with richer insight into their values and motivations. Sequential questioning techniques allow conversations to deepen progressively. This involves starting with light topics and gradually moving toward more significant subjects as trust and rapport develop. Skilled conversationalists can move discussions from casual small talk to meaningful personal exchanges within minutes by following natural progression patterns. The concept of the conversation thread involves noticing small details others mention and exploring them more deeply. When someone brings up a trip, a book, or a challenge, you can dive further into the topic by asking follow-up questions that show genuine interest and help them elaborate on their experiences. Staying focused on the topic demonstrates that you are truly listening and creates opportunities for others to share personal information. It also helps conversations flow naturally, instead of jumping from one topic to another without logical connection. Active listening goes far beyond simply hearing words. It involves detecting emotions, values, assumptions, and unspoken concerns. It means observing what people emphasize, what they avoid discussing, and what seems to energize or drain them as they speak. Reflective listening techniques help others feel heard and understood while giving you opportunities to clarify your understanding. This may involve paraphrasing what you heard, reflecting the emotions you noticed, or asking questions that help people clarify their own thoughts. The psychology of self-disclosure shows that relationships deepen through mutual vulnerability. By sharing appropriate personal information, psychological safety is created for others to open up in return. This generates upward spirals of trust and intimacy. However, self-disclosure must be appropriately calibrated to the relationship and context. Sharing too much too soon can make others uncomfortable, while sharing too little keeps relationships superficial. The key is to match the depth of disclosure to how much others are sharing, gradually increasing vulnerability as trust develops. Turn-taking in conversation follows subtle psychological rules that most people observe unconsciously. These include respecting natural pause points, avoiding interruptions except when appropriate, and ensuring conversation time is distributed fairly among participants. Understanding these patterns helps you engage more skillfully in group discussions, knowing when to speak and when to listen, and facilitating conversations that include everyone rather than being dominated by the most talkative participants. Emotional calibration in conversation involves adjusting energy, tone, and content to match the needs of the situation. If someone shares something serious or painful, matching their emotional tone shows respect and empathy. If someone is excited about an achievement, sharing their enthusiasm creates connection and rapport. This does not mean being fake or losing authenticity. Rather, it means being emotionally flexible and responsive to the needs of others while staying true to your own personality and values. The art of influencing conversation involves guiding discussions toward topics and conclusions that benefit everyone, while respecting the autonomy and judgment of others. This requires understanding each person's motivations and finding ways to connect your own ideas to their values and goals. Influential conversationalists ask questions that help others analyze problems instead of simply presenting their own opinions. They use stories and examples to illustrate points rather than relying solely on abstract arguments. They acknowledge others' perspectives before presenting their own. Managing difficult conversations requires understanding the psychological dynamics that trigger defensiveness and conflict. When people feel criticized, misunderstood, or threatened, they become defensive and stop listening effectively. Avoiding these triggers allows complex issues to be addressed without unnecessary resistance. Techniques for handling difficult conversations include separating people from the problem, focusing on behaviors rather than character, using direct language to express your perspective, and identifying underlying interests rather than debating positions. Nonverbal communication continues throughout every conversation, providing constant feedback on how words are perceived and how others feel. Monitoring facial expressions, body language, and tone of voice helps you adjust your approach in real time to maintain engagement and connection. The way conversations conclude affects how people remember the entire interaction. Effective endings may involve summarizing key points, expressing gratitude for the other person's time and ideas, making concrete plans for follow-up, or simply acknowledging the value of the connection. Mastery of conversation also involves knowing when to end discussions. Skilled conversationalists can sense when energy is waning, when important topics have been addressed, or when continuing would be less valuable than concluding on a positive note. The goal of advanced conversation psychology is not to manipulate others or always get your way, but to create interactions that are genuinely valuable for everyone involved. When you can facilitate conversations that help others think more clearly, feel more understood, and connect more deeply, you become someone people seek out and highly value. Chapter 15. Building deep trust and lasting influence. Trust is the foundation of all meaningful relationships and lasting influence. Unlike temporary obedience that comes from authority or pressure, influence based on trust generates genuine commitment and long-term loyalty. Building deep trust requires understanding the psychological mechanisms that create confidence in character, competence, and intentions. The psychology of trust shows that humans evaluate reliability through three main dimensions: ability, benevolence, and integrity. Ability refers to competence and the capacity to fulfill commitments. Benevolence involves genuine concern for the well-being and interests of others. Integrity involves consistency between stated values and actual behavior. All three elements must be present for deep trust to develop. Someone can be highly competent but not care about others' interests, making them unreliable despite their abilities. Someone may care deeply for others but lack the skills to help effectively. Someone may be caring and capable but show inconsistency between words and actions. Building trust in your own abilities requires developing genuine competence in areas that matter to others and finding appropriate ways to demonstrate it without appearing arrogant or boastful. This involves continuous learning, skill development, and humility in recognizing the limits of your own expertise. Effectively demonstrating competence means focusing on results rather than credentials. Sharing specific examples of successful outcomes and being transparent about both successes and failures builds more trust than claiming to be perfect. The ability component of trust also includes reliability, consistently honoring commitments, meeting deadlines, and maintaining quality standards. Small consistencies in minor matters build confidence in your reliability to handle important responsibilities. Benevolence is shown through genuine interest in others' success and well-being. This involves listening attentively to understand others' needs and concerns, offering help without being asked, and celebrating others' achievements without jealousy or competition. Building trust based on benevolence requires shifting from scarcity mindset to one of abundance. Instead of seeing others' success as a threat to your progress, you look for ways to contribute to their growth and achievements. This seemingly counterintuitive approach actually increases your influence because people naturally want to support those who support them. Expressions of benevolence must be authentic, not strategic. People can detect when care and concern are genuine and when they are motivated by hidden agendas. True benevolence arises from genuine appreciation for others and belief in their value and potential. Integrity involves consistency between stated values and actual behavior, especially when maintaining the consistency is difficult or costly. It means keeping commitments even when circumstances change, admitting mistakes when they occur, and choosing ethical paths even when easier alternatives exist. Building trust based on integrity first requires clarifying your own values and principles, then making decisions aligned with those values regardless of external pressures. It involves being honest about your motivations and transparent about potential conflicts of interest. Integrity is often tested in small moments rather than dramatic situations. How you handle minor commitments, respond to criticism, treat people who cannot help you, and manage confidential information all provide evidence of character that others use to evaluate your reliability. The paradox of vulnerability in developing trust shows that displaying appropriate vulnerability actually increases others' trust in you rather than diminishing it. When you admit mistakes, acknowledge uncertainties, or share personal challenges, you demonstrate emotional security and authenticity that build deeper connections. However, vulnerability must be properly calibrated to the relationship and context. Sharing too much too soon can make others uncomfortable, while maintaining a perfect facade prevents the deeper connections that generate lasting trust and influence. Effective vulnerability involves sharing challenges that have been overcome rather than overwhelming current problems, admitting mistakes while demonstrating what has been learned from them, and expressing uncertainties about situations while maintaining confidence in your ability to solve problems. Consistency over time is perhaps the most crucial element for generating trust. Trust develops through the accumulation of experiences demonstrating reliability, honesty, and care. It cannot be built quickly through grand gestures, but through consistent behavior across countless small interactions. Building trust is a long-term strategy that requires patience and sustained commitment to values and relationships. It involves maintaining high standards for yourself, even when no one is watching, and treating everyone with respect regardless of their ability to benefit you. The reciprocal nature of trust means that generating trust in others often increases their trust in you. When you demonstrate confidence in others' abilities, assign them important responsibilities, and support them through challenges, they often respond by increasing their commitment to you and shared goals. This involves strategic trust giving, deliberately extending trust to others in appropriate situations to strengthen relationships and foster growth. It means believing in others' potential and giving them opportunities to prove their worth while supporting them to achieve success. Transparency in communication fosters trust by reducing uncertainty and speculation about intentions and decision-making processes. This involves explaining reasoning when making decisions that affect others, providing regular updates on important projects, and being open about challenges and setbacks. Transparency does not mean sharing every detail or idea, but ensuring others understand motivations and decision-making criteria. It means being proactive in communication rather than forcing others to guess or assume your thoughts. Conflict management significantly affects trust levels in relationships. How you respond when disagreements, mistakes, or conflicts arise provide a clear test of character and reliability. Managing conflicts with integrity, fairness, and respect builds trust even when resolution is difficult. This involves taking responsibility for your contributions to problems, listening carefully to others' concerns, collaborating to find solutions, and maintaining respect for people even when you disagree with their positions or decisions. Repairing trust becomes necessary when it has been damaged by mistakes, misunderstandings, or failures. Rebuilding trust requires acknowledging what went wrong, taking full responsibility without excuses, demonstrating genuine remorse, and creating concrete plans to prevent similar issues in the future. Restoring trust also requires patience and consistent positive behavior over time. Once trust is broken, it usually takes longer to rebuild than to establish initially. This process cannot be rushed, but requires sustained commitment to demonstrate renewed reliability. The multiplying effect of trust means that as your reputation for reliability grows, every new relationship benefits from it. People who have heard of your dependability and integrity begin interacting with higher levels of trust, creating positive cycles that enhance your influence and effectiveness. Building this type of reputation requires maintaining consistent standards across all relationships and contexts. It means treating everyone with respect and honesty, regardless of their status or ability to help you, because your reputation is built on how you handle all interactions, not just the important ones. The ultimate goal of building trust is to create relationships where influence flows naturally from mutual respect and shared commitment rather than position, pressure, or manipulation. When people trust you deeply, they seek your opinion, value your ideas, and commit enthusiastically to shared goals because they believe you care about their interests. This type of influence endures over time, withstands challenges and setbacks, and generates genuine satisfaction for everyone involved. It transforms you from someone who seeks obedience into someone who inspires commitment, loyalty, and genuine collaboration to achieve meaningful objectives. Thank you for listening on Audiobook USA.